Okay, within the Islamic law, I'm going to go through again the most common, most popular, and most famous Islamic law book, The Reliance of the Traveler and the Tools of the Worshipper, also known as the Umdat al-Salik. And then I'm going to go through Al-Ghazali's book, the Ihya Ulum al-Din, Volume 3. I just read something from Volume 2 now, Keeping Secrets, right? And literally within the Islamic law, they have chapters on lying. This is a chapter called Permissible Lying, and then later there's a section called Obligatory Lying. So understand, Muslims will talk until they are blue in the face about how Islam doesn't allow lying, except that their scholars seem to disagree. So now, do I listen to obnoxious, anonymous Muslim 59 in the comments, or do I listen to the most authoritative works of Islamic law written by the most authoritative, skilled, and knowledgeable scholars? Because Muslims always say, have you consulted a scholar? Well, yes, I did. So this chapter is section R 8.2, and it's called Permissible Lying, right? And it says that he who settles disagreements between people to bring about good or says something commendable is not a liar. So in other words, if you are a Muslim and you settle a disagreement between people, like for instance, I believe it's possible that as Christians you have debates, there are polemics, and you have arguments and discussions with Muslims. And these are called disagreements because you disagree on certain theological points and you disagree on historical points. Well, if they can settle that disagreement to bring about good, and the good is defined in the Sharia as the advancement of Islam, if they can bring about the good of Islam, then it is not considered lying. So they can lie through their teeth whole day, every day, for any reason and all reasons. And this is not considered lying. This is commendable. They will receive reward, and does not make them a liar. Now, of course, with the hadith, you hear, I did not hear Muhammad commit untruth in anything except the three things: war and settling disagreements. So Muhammad allowed lying in settling disagreements. That's what that hadith says according to the Sharia manual. Now, this is from the scholars. I'm reading directly from the book. This is an explicit statement that lying is sometimes permissible for a given interest. You can ignore the word sometimes. It is always permissible. Okay? So lying is permissible for a given interest. This is an explicit statement that is written right in the book. Speaking is a means to achieve objectives. When it is possible to achieve such an aim by lying, but not by telling the truth, it is permissible to lie if attaining the goal is permissible. Now, is it permissible to let Islam triumph? Is it permissible to silence the kafir? Is it permissible to make Muhammad the god of someone, to convert them? Of course. So, when it is possible to achieve such an aim by lying but not telling the truth, it is permissible to lie. When the purpose of lying is to circumvent someone who is preventing one from doing something permissible, and it is obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory. So you can lie when the purpose of lying is to circumvent someone who's preventing one from doing something permissible. So dawah is permissible. If you as a Christian are trying to prevent them from succeeding with their dawah, they can lie because the goal is permissible, and it's obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory, right? And then, of course, let me just continue a little bit here. So that's written in black and white. And they say, now, sometimes you don't always want to lie blatantly. So what you can do is you can use deception. They speak of deception here. The outward meaning of your words will deceive the hearer. So you can use words where the outward meaning of the words will deceive the hearer. So you are allowed to use deceit, deception, without actually lying. This is called hiyal. Okay, so they say here, so it is not unlawful to lie when any of these aims can only be attained through lying, right? It is not unlawful to lie when any of these aims can only be attained through lying, but it is religiously more precautionary, so this is a religious ruling, to use words that give a misleading impression. The outward meaning of your words will deceive the hearer. So deceiving people with confusing words is considered lawful, holy, and legal. Okay? So this is actually written within the Sharia law. They provide this example. So now I'm going to go to the Ihya Ulum al-Din, and this is volume 3, page 108 in this particular translation. And they said that false speaking is permissible. In other words, lying is permissible. This is according to the very best scholar that Islam has ever produced. Sometimes false speaking becomes compulsory. False speaking is better than speaking the truth in some places. So lying is better than telling the truth in some places. And if you want to compromise between two parties, then false speaking is lawful. So Islamic debate is a method that's actually given a name. It was developed in the 9th century. It is called Adab al-Jadal. The people who developed it were called the controversialists. They dealt with issues that were controversial, legal and theological issues. And they learned sophistry. It's basically based on 5th century BC Greek sophistry. And it's the same thing. It's called heuristic in Western language. We call it heuristic. It's called hiyal. Hiyal is the basis for all forms of lying in Islam. So taqiyya and all the other forms, all the other multiple forms of lying are subset of hiyal. Hiyal is technically means legal trickery. Legal trickery. It is a way of circumventing and breaking the law while kind of obeying the kind of obeying the law, but actually breaking the law completely. And it legalizes, it uses sophisticated language, trickery to deceive people with language, right? And adab al-jadal is the Islamic form of debate. This is how the form of debate, which is rhetorical, which is based on hiyal, based on deception, where the aim is not to find truth. And it says so explicitly in the sources. The aim is not to find the truth. The aim is to win. The aim is to defeat the other person, right? So the Prophet allowed false speaking in 3 cases to bring a compromise between 2 parties. They repeat this again. And he who settles disputes between parties is not a liar, even if he's lying through his teeth, as long as you can settle a dispute. So a debate is a dispute, right? That's disputation. And if you can settle it by lying, go for it, buddy. The liar who speaks, though the lie which someone speaks in war is not recorded, as war is a strategy. Islam is always at war. Jihad is permanent. And I don't have time to go into all of that. I mean, then jihad is a whole topic on itself. The lie which is spoken to settle matters between 2 contending parties is not written by Allah. The lie which is spoken to settle the matters between 2 contending parties is not written. That sentence is twice. So Allah does not remember a lie that you told to settle a discussion between a Muslim and a Christian, for instance, and between a Muslim and a Muslim. Right? There is no sin in the falsehood which benefits a Muslim or removes a harm from him. There is no sin in the lie, in the falsehood, which benefits a Muslim or removes a harm from him. Okay? He who commits fornication shall keep it secret with the secrecy of Allah, because to disclose an obscene act is also an obscene act. To disclose an obscene act done by a Muslim is itself an obscene act. If you keep it secret, Allah will keep it secret. Every man should sometimes save his honor by taking recourse to falsehood. A Muslim man can save his honor by lying. It says so explicitly on the page. If inquiry is made to you about a secret thing of your brother Muslim, you can lie to preserve his honor. If harm is caused more than benefit in the case of speaking the truth, so if you speak the truth and this will cause more harm than benefit, you must lie. And so on and so on and so on. This is, you can read this yourself, Ihya Ulum al-Din, volume 3, page 108. And the translation that I'm using is Revival of Religious Sciences. That's it, the Revival of the Religious Sciences. This is the translation by Fazl ul-Karim, okay, volume 3. And this one is called technically Revival of Religious Learnings, Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulum al-Din by Fazl ul-Karim. Let's go
So,
ahead.
in respect to what you just said, how can you then know if Sharia allows for misleading language? How can you then know that the translations you have yourself, especially for us non-Arabic readers, are in fact what they're saying? How do we know that they're translated honestly?
That's a fair question, because sometimes they are not. Sometimes they lie in the translations, because it says, if you read the reliance early in the beginning, there's sections where the imam must keep the peace, and if so you must keep the peace, prevent friction, right? Prevent this issues. So if you need to lie to prevent issues, and because doubt must be prevented at all costs. So Muslims will be lied to by their imams to prevent doubt. Like the whole story of Aisha being 18 and 19 and all that, and she wasn't 5 years old, and all of that nonsense. It's legal to lie. So rather push it onto the Christians. Rebecca was 2.5 years old, and Aisha was 19, you know, and she was a DJ at a nightclub where she was very famous and all that stuff. So look, the ijma is the good thing is that when you go through the Islamic law books, you'll find consistency. The ijma is consistent. You will find occasionally that they will write in a way that is no. You will notice the language gets slippery. Now, look, I've been reading this stuff for 7 years now. I know 8 years almost. Yeah, about 8 years. I've kind of picked up a clue because you will find that there's always someone who tells the truth. You always find references that contradict them. You'll find eventually like how they apply it. You look at the actions, not the words in it. But yes, they will lie to you. They will write it. They will leave details out. They will add details in. But it is possible when you sift through it to find the truth, although they will try and deceive. And some of the knowledge is just for the scholars only. So if you're not a scholar, you technically wouldn't know. I've unraveled a lot of it, but in some of it they just don't translate. It's that simple. If they want to keep it secret, they just do not translate it.